This episode is brought to you by Mortgage Workflow Partners and the Mastering Encompass series, both for users as well as administrators. You can find out all the information about it over at masterengencompass.com. Also, if you'd like to check out what we're doing on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel using the @MasteringEncompass handle. And make sure you stay up to date on all the information, not just with podcasts, but also video content that we bring to you as often as possible. Now let's get on to the episode. Hey, welcome everyone. My name is Larry Daly, CEO with Mortgage Workflow Partners. It is Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and we're getting together as a community. Ask me anything Encompass or about home construction. I feel like that's all I've been doing the last couple of months. As we're letting people roll in here, a couple of things to remember. There's a Q&A. You can ask any questions, which is obviously the whole point of an AMA. You can use the Q&A within the feature here. You can also go through, see if these things load up. You can also go through and make sure that you use the chat. So we'll go ahead and get everybody invited here. One of these days, I will actually get somebody to help me with all of this cool stuff, making sure that we've got all these features covered. If you are watching this replay, that means you are part of the Mastering Encompass community, to which I thank you. We are now, for a lot of folks, about a year old. It's been like a year and maybe a year and 2 or 3 months. And the Circle community, which actually this is based on or built on, actually is pretty solid. We have noticed that there are times where it is unavailable, it crashes. We're working on that. Unfortunately, there's only so many things I can control. So a lot of things are happening right now. Obviously, it's April of 26. Keep in mind, 26.1, now a couple months old, or actually about a month old rather. In a couple more months, we'll get 26.2 in our UAT environments. So that'll be pretty cool. And, there's about 27 folks here, give or take. So let's get into it. Who's got any questions? Again, rule of thumb here is raise your hand if you want me to open up your mic. If you want to ask a question in chat, use that. If it goes into Q&A, use that. And I'll keep hitting the accept here to get people in the meeting. Anybody have anything they want to talk about? Any directions, anything like that? It's hard to believe. 4 weeks ago, we were just all out in Vegas. For those that were out there, it was great to see everybody. And then those that joined the wrap-up event afterwards, thank you for that too. That was a super awesome day. Well, I will ask the first question. If you have not had a chance to check out WorkflowCoach, I would encourage you to. It's not really a question, but it is a call to action. We are closing down beta at the end of this month. The feedback on this has been super over the top, awesome. And it's a great way to make sure you document your workflows, control your projects, really implement workflow governance like never before. Like, we don't do workflow governance in the mortgage industry, which is wild, but I've figured out how to solve for it. So it's there for you. If you are interested in joining, just hit me up through the community. I'll send you the steps to join. But basically, just to give you an idea, when you get to here, you click login, and then in the lower right-hand side, click sign up. You'll go through some steps, but you've got to make sure, if you want to see how it works, you can go through there and check that out. When we move to corporate pricing, I don't know if this will be the final pricing, but it is here, and there's good justification for it. So in case you haven't seen that, it's there. There's a Q&A. Thank you for the Q&A, because that's why we're here. It says, I have a user complaining about documents uploaded to the unassigned file manager, e-folder not being saved, claims disappearing, documents change made. Is this all new document viewer, Encompass desktop? Anybody else seeing this? So first of all, if documents are being uploaded to the unassigned file manager in the e-folder and the e-folder is not being saved, Kevin, I'm going to let me know if you want to come off of come on mic, so to speak. So anytime I've ever heard of things happening in that, it had to do with Encompass Web. because Encompass Web, if you don't click save in the E folder, it will obviously not save that work. But when it comes to what you're describing, where the document is being uploaded, quick question. So again, you're using new doc viewer. That typically means server-side document conversion. And so it would be interesting to see if they're the only user. And I guess that would be my big follow-up is, are they the only user that are experiencing this or not? Again, Kevin, if you want to come off mic, we can ask certain questions. Let me know. Cool, there you are. So I will get you over. Thanks for raising your hand, because that means now I can find you and allow mic. So yeah, Kevin, you should be able to unmic or
All right, thanks for
unmute.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the craziest thing about it is like this is not like a user where you kind of roll your eyes. Like this is one of our more intelligent
Somebody you
people.
trust, right?
Right, right. So I have a hard time believing that he's just not saving,
Every
just not
file?
clicking the button. It's not every file, but he's kind of on patrol for it now, right?
Hmm.
So I don't know if he's just the only one having the issue or simply the first
So
one to notice.
here's what I would tell you. Again, and you've got new doc viewer enabled, right?
Right. We
All right,
launched
cool.
that probably a few months ago.
Okay, awesome. So a couple of things when it comes to that. If you're noticing it in the unassigned file area for this particular user, because it sounds like they're a trusted resource, what I would say is, hey, next time that happens, upload the same file into a document, not into the unassigned area, and tell me if you have the same behavior. That's number one. Number two, what I would strongly recommend, again, because this is a trusted user, show them how to enable the just-in-time log and give them that ability. And I would ask them, as soon as they notice that behavior, immediately go and turn on the JIT logging, and then have them try to upload that to the unassigned area to see if the failure still happens. The challenge with this is in desktop, the JIT log is the only way to really control that. If you were on web, you'd have them just run developer tools and capture the har file. But that's fairly unusual, especially because it's been there for a couple of months and it's sporadic. The only other thing I could throw at you, for Kevin, for this is when you look at this particular team member, um, is that the only thing they've ever complained about, or do they have other Encompass anomalies?
Yeah, it's good questions. I mean, so the issue I think I would have with trying to capture it in the log is like workflow wise, you upload a bunch of stuff or you rename stuff, move it around, right? You save the file, get out. At some point, sometimes minutes, sometimes hours, you come back and, you know, the files are not the way you left them,
Oh, well, hang on a second.
right?
That's a different, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's a different problem.
Okay, so let's talk through
So
that one.
let's split this up. So we're not talking about taking a file, dragging and dropping it to the unassigned, and then it just doesn't appear. We're talking about it's already in the unassigned and they're actually splitting out documents.
Correct. So like visually, they can upload stuff, drag and drop, and it looks
Yeah,
like it should. Like everything looks perfect, but
yeah.
it's just there's some sort of failure. Like once he exits the file, comes back, like things are messed up.
Okay,
Right?
now
And
the things that are messed up, is it that when they go through, are they getting rid of all of the pages of the file, or are they leaving some of the thumbnails of the original file? Really important question here.
I would suspect it's the latter. So, prototypical use case would be borrower uploads 6 pay stubs glued together, right? And so we're separating out the 6 pay stubs or 2 different bank statements. So we're separating out, one bank statement from the other,
Yeah.
right? So like, and some of the changes are just simply renaming, right? So the borrower uploaded a thing called tax returns. We might have changed it to, 2025 1120S, right? And
Yeah.
save the name, right? But like that kind of stuff is reverting for this
Hmm.
user.
Yeah. Okay,
It's almost like visually it's doing what it's supposed to do, but
but it's not
something,
committing. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
something is
not
failing
getting,
to
yeah,
commit. And none of it shows up in the history tab, right? So
right. It's never
we've
going to
looked
show
at the
up there.
history,
Yeah.
but like if it never commits, it will never be part of that log.
Okay, so the times where I've seen this to be a problem is there's a the persona that you have for that user account. Is there more than one persona? And I'm not
Mm,
trying to point a finger at that. I'm just asking the question.
it's likely.
Okay,
I'll have to look
so
at that.
what I want you to do is I want you to go into the e folder tab in the upper right side in the unassigned file manager area. And I want you to pay attention of, do they have the ability to, what out of all their personas that they have, do they have the ability to edit and or delete the file? And so Kirsten, excuse me, I don't know why I always trip up on that, Kirsten. Kirsten just put a note in. We're aware of the issue, and so Kirsten is what Kevin is describing identical to your reported issue that ICE is providing feedback for, where you're changing the names of files, not resolving, you're only removing some of the thumbnails, and they're reverting back to that file when the user goes back into the loan. So let me know if those are the exact same. Exactly. I'm moving things around and then they revert. Okay. So Kevin, thanks for bringing it up. So community says it's not just you, and it is something that you should. Kirsten, can you do me a favor? Can you put a ticket, your ticket number in the chat if you can find it, please? And that way, if anybody else has this problem, I'd also encourage you to create a ticket under your own account and then tie it to the one that hopefully Kirsten loads up here for you. I will. So thank you for that. What would be super interesting, and you can't do this because it's production, right? But it'd be super interesting to have that same user, Kevin, in your case, go to Encompass Web just to move documents around and run the HAR file to see if you're getting any errors on there.
Okay.
Marina ran into it. Well,
Seems like quite a few.
Yeah, I think, well, you don't, Marina's just got problems in general. I'm kidding, Marina. I'm just joking. There you go. Case number 031-27527. I'll latch onto it, gang.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, I'm being cheeky. Yeah, Kevin, no, thanks for the question. That's awesome. But I will say this, a lot of times when I hear this problem, what happens is a persona doesn't have the ability to permanently delete out of the e-folder a file in the unassigned. And what happens is the last thumbnail of that file actually deletes the file because the file is now empty. And so what ends up happening is it ends up in this like routine of we don't want that person to permanently delete because permanently delete is bad, but we do want them to empty all the thumbnails out of that. I'm like, well, it's the same thing. So yeah. So this is why Encompass, by the way, this is one of the reasons why in 26.2, I believe it's 26.2 that is committed. I could be wrong, so don't hold me accountable if it moves to 26.3. But they're going to bring web e-folder functionality to desktop, and specifically the one that I'm always excited about in web e-folder document management is the ability to copy thumbnails over to the destination and leave the original file intact. And that's how you get around, by the way, that's how you get around this permanently delete problem. You have the original PDF blob, and instead of moving all the thumbnails out, because that's easy, you basically select the thumbnails and then do a copy to new location. Crazy workflows. Great one. Thanks, Kevin. Let us know again in the future if it gets built. Kirsten, they said, I'll link it to your case. At this moment, we do not have an ETA. However, the issue is resolved. I'll provide an updated. Yeah. I would say anybody who has that problem, again, I would have the team test that out or perform that kind of action in Encompass Web, run the har file, and if you want to learn yourself what's going on. Cool. What else we got? We got a ton of people now. I think there's 300 people on the call. Feels like, at least. I don't think there's that many. Other questions? I see chats over there. Yeah. Lots happened. For those that went to the ICE conference, I'll ask questions if you guys are going to be quiet. Those that went to the ICE conference, top takeaway. What was your top takeaway? And for those that didn't go to the ICE conference, was there anything that you wish you had gone there for? That's a good question. A lot of people have been really honing in on AI. Everything, of course, my attitude is workflow. I think Lisa really took away workflow tasks as a conversation. So does everybody understand actually how to use workflow tasks, like in real life? Anybody want to talk about that? Again, you got to ask the questions. All Lisa's been doing. I really wanted to do workflow tasks. Oh, that was Lisa DeRosa. How to reduce human minor mistakes that cost you? Oh, how do I? Is that a question, Kelly, or is that a statement? Is that what workflow test? I don't know what the perspective is there. But basically, I don't see anybody asking a question on it. But the one thing that comes up a lot is the distinction between a workflow task and a condition. So the idea of coming across to a team member to say, I'm adding this condition to make sure it doesn't get forgotten about. It might be a condition, it might be a workflow task, just depends on what you want them to do. Typically, what I remind folks when we go through helping companies implement workflow tasks is your workflow task obviously has a task workspace if you're using web. If you're not using web, you're just going to use your desktop interface, which I got to be honest with you, the desktop interface of workflow tasks, I love the subtasks. I don't know if anybody else feels like me. I'm a task geek. But if you look at the workflow tasks in web, everything's vertical in the left nav. If you look at workflow tasks in desktop, it actually falls across in the screen horizontally in tile-based format, which again for me is aesthetically pleasing. And yes, Lisa. So Lisa asked, can you make workflow task required? Absolutely. You can make your workflow task required for milestone completion, just like standard task. So like to have a document attached or XXX field ID completed. Yeah, you make it available, you make it required for a milestone. Now, another way that you could deal with that, Lisa, is if you don't have that task completed by a certain time or by a certain other event, you can either alert another team member that it's unfinished, or you can set a notification template. Obviously, those are ideas. But you gotta figure out, why do you even have this task in the first place? And so, like recently, we were meeting with a company who really wants to start to understand how to leverage Encompass Web. And their big thing, of course, is, well, I really don't want to recreate everything I have in desktop. And of course, I'm like, you don't have to. You don't want to, and you definitely shouldn't. And so the one example input form we went through real quick was the closer summary page, whatever it's called, closer summary. And in there, in the middle, in the dead center, it was 8 check boxes of things the closer has to remember to do. And so, and this is the problem with standard tasks, is when you make them a requirement, everybody just goes tick, 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 tick. Like, you don't even know if the work's done. What you need to make sure you remember is workflow tasks only are present if the thing that you want them to do is missing, or if it's wrong. Otherwise, don't give them a task. That's the whole point of workflow tasks, is you only give them a task to do something if they're supposed to do it. But you have to understand if they're supposed to do it, which means you have to understand the workflow. So, and it's work, gang. Like, administratively, for those that are admins on here, like, you just can't say, like, oh, the closer needs to review the CD. I'm like, what are they reviewing it for? When do they review it? What do they do if the review is crap? What do they do if the review is good? For close for everyone. Randy, you're crazy. Uh, but you do have to understand this, and I would highly encourage you slow down, whether you're on the business operation side or you're in the admin owner side or IT side or whatever, but you got to slow your teams down with understanding why we're doing this. What's amazing to me is the amount at the ICE show. We do a lot of work with not only just lenders as clients, but we actually do a lot of work with partners. Like next, I think it's the week after next, we're doing a big webinar thing with Oculus because they have this really cool piece of tech that does, document automation and condition automation. And sometimes, companies like this shiny object solution, but they don't fix their other workflow problems. So when we went through this with the closer and with the workflow tasks, what I want to make sure that you remember is that as you're developing these things, do not just stop and take for granted what it is the business thinks they want. They probably don't know because no one's ever stopped to ask them. So what I'd highly encourage, if workflow tasks are your thing, I'm going to read these comments over here in a second, but if workflow tasks are a thing for you, what I want you to really take away from is, what do we expect them to do? How do we know they're supposed to do it? And then how do we know that the work is actually done properly? You got to ask those three questions, please. And if you don't, all you're doing is setting yourself up for maintenance down the road. Someone's not going to appreciate it. It's not going to fit really in what you're doing. And you're going to end up redoing it. Craig, I see. I'm going to take you. Okay, you can unmute yourself, Craig, if you want. While we're waiting for Craig here, I'll go back through the. Libby says, I keep forgetting you need to create a custom input form for web if you want the workspace. I went as far as creating the task, starting the workspace, and I realized, nope. Yeah, so you do. So to Libby's point is you've got to create, if your expectation is they're going to be working in web and they're going to have a task workspace to do that work that you want them to do, you're either using a standard form, a custom form, or eFolder docs, depending on what the task is. So you got to make sure you have that first. And again, that's why you got to know the workflow. Craig, what's up, bud?
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't have a question. Sorry.
You didn't? You
My
just
hand
wanted
was
to.
up.
You were
I
just
was
like,
reacting earlier to your "Can you hear me?" thing.
hmm.
So sorry, I forgot.
Totally
to put
appreciate it.
down.
Thank you, bud. Appreciate it. So yeah, so what ends up happening, just to kind of drill in this workflow test thing, what's not helpful at all with workflow tasks is to just simply think you're going to take a checklist and make it a set of workflow tasks. Like, please don't waste your time. Do not waste your users' time. It's going to be a horrible first experience. 26.2 ICE has committed to delivering the view all tasks persona. What's going to happen is the persona is going to be something that you assign. Why it's not going to interfere with business rules, I don't know yet. I haven't seen it. I'll tell you more in a couple of months. But the idea is that this persona will be able to see all tasks, but you've got to make sure that you have your filtering set up properly so that whoever can view all tasks can properly filter out the tasks for the teams they need to see, whether that's organizational units or user group units or a person. And where I'm leading you here is what you don't want to do as an admin or as a business is prescribe this workflow that has no value in it. We create conditions, and I see this stuff all the time. Like in WorkflowCoach, we've got at this point 600 workflows documented, all different channels, some even different industries. And what's pervasive in all of them, because we use AI to analyze them, what's pervasive in all of them is that there is a clear disconnect of why a setting exists within those steps. And so some of the notes are, I gotta wear glasses. It's gotten so bad. I'm getting so old here. But Lisa says, I understand not making a task if you don't need to actually do a thing, but they need to review a conversation log. So Lisa, I don't know if you want to talk more about this directly, but they need to review a conversation log for what? Why are they reviewing a conversation log? Why are these important notes that need to be reviewed going in a conversation log at all? Why aren't they going into a field that you can tell that the thing you wanted them to talk about in the conversation log actually happened? So like earlier today, I had to document a workflow for web LGY delivery, right, for VA guarantee. And so the VA guarantee, but then the VA hits you with a flag that says they want you to send the file over for audit. And so there's, in this particular workflow, they want to document three things: the file request, the file delivery, and then the deficiency cleared. And so I asked the next question, who's managing the deficiency? And it's a TPO company. So they're like, oh, well, it's the TPO seller and it's the client coordinator. All right, well, how are they tracking those deficiencies? They're not. Is that a good workflow? They're closing like 5,000 loans a month. Probably working out pretty well. But the idea is you've got to ask the question. And so the moment somebody's like, no, dude, it's a total pain in the ass. Like it takes me 5 minutes to figure out what I'm even supposed to be doing on this loan. That's the moment you're like, all right, well, we got to change the workflow. So Lisa says, we have them review the conversation log for any notes that may give an explanation for something in the file. I don't mean to laugh. Sorry, Lisa. What? So if you're looking for an explanation of something, again, I'm going to dig deeper. What's the explanation of? Was it an exception? Was there an override? Was there a rush request? Like, what was it that you're looking for? You have to find that out, Lisa, because to find that out tells me what kind of workflow task I need to create for whom. So these are the kinds of things that take time, and usually it's not too deep. Usually when you get into these conversations, if you keep going enough, you'll find the end pretty quickly. And then honestly, as long as nobody changes the workflow, you're done for good. What ends up happening though is sometimes people can't figure out that answer. They're like, well, I'm just looking for stuff. I don't know in that, and I don't know why they're looking for stuff. That means that there's an inconsistent way that information is getting there, and there's an inconsistent level of information that is put there. You got to fix this stuff. So not to pick on Lisa, thank you for bringing that up. But that's the reason why workflow tasks will uncover workflow lack of documentation, because you'll have something like this. Like, hey, I want to make it so that I create a space for you to do the work for this task. And they're like, well, it depends on what the thing is. And then you find out that nobody really knows what they actually need. They just kind of go look for it. Yeah. Another good one is like in this for workflow tasks, because we're on this topic now apparently. But in workflow tasks, like with, I always talk with sales teams and loan officer assistants or loan processors, or account managers working with TPOs, because a workflow task is I've requested borrower documents. Very generic, but I need to have it back on the 15th because I need to get the file into underwriting on the 15th to close on the 22nd. Right? There's a strategy to this. So when you're looking at workflow tasks, don't always think that you need something specific. Sometimes it can be generic, but you set a timer and an assignment for someone to make sure that the loan file moves quickly. In the admin call earlier today on the Mastering Encompass admin certification, coaching and certification course, we had a conversation as admins. We do this every Tuesday for live lesson reinforcement. And the lesson that we were talking about in today was when do we make sure that we've got specific information needed in the file? And so the part that was interesting about that was when you're going through those steps and having to make sure of what's needed in the file. Again, a lot of times it falls apart. It's not really what's needed. It's something somebody's used to. So I'm always going to encourage everybody to just to say generally, if you're going out there and you're trying to make workflow changes and trying to document things, make sure you set your interviewee up with the expectation that you're going to keep asking questions until you get to the bottom. So just help me get to the bottom quicker. And the bottom quicker means in English that you need to figure out why something is happening in the order that it's happening. Not that deep. As long as they can say it. What you'll find more often than not is somebody actually doesn't know why they're doing that. It's just what they do. It's what they've always done. And when you ask to press on, well, what happens if you don't do that? They sometimes can't tell you because they don't know. And that's again, these are just little tricks we use when we do workflow alignment assessments to really document these things. And of course, we document everything in WorkflowCoach. So, all right, I feel like that's enough of workflow. Luba asked the question earlier. So there'll be different views for tasks. No, there's only one view for tasks, Luba, and everybody else, and that is overdue tasks are always at the top of your task pipeline, or on schedule tasks are at the bottom of your task pipeline. So what's coming out is currently you can only view your own tasks. What's going to change is, Luba, you'll have the way it's been explained to me is we're going to have a persona to assign. That persona is going to carry the ability to view all tasks. The challenge, when I talked to ICE about this, was viewing a task ties you to the loan file. And so there was this permission problem of hopping from a task into a loan file you're not supposed to access. So what's going to happen is if you see a task for a loan that you actually don't have access to, the link just won't work. You won't be able to click through the loan. It'll fail. I don't know how it fails, but it fails. So Libby says, Tammy says, following up with people, challenging when your upflow is full of people that hate change. Your workflow, I guess, right? So I talked about this in the wrap-up event a lot. And so, Tammy, what I would say to you and what I say to everybody else is, you've got to have something in it for them, right? There's the value proposition is real. And so I use this example quite a lot. And if anyone's is anyone an underwriter, by the way, out of 50 people, anybody an underwriter? Just curious. This would be a good one. All right, cool. We got some underwriters. All right. So underwriters, I'm going to automate your underwriting. I'm going to put conditions in there so you don't have to worry about them. And you just kind of go through and everything's going to be great. And you don't have to worry about those automated conditions because everything's going to be good. And it's going to make you more efficient. If you're a normal person, the first thing you should be thinking of is, yeah, it's not what I do. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm okay with that. I'd have to see it first to see how it goes. And then I'm going to also add on there, oh, by the way, we're also going to automatically clear conditions because we got the data in from some service and it's going to automatically clear the condition. And at that point, you're going to say, no way, like I'm going to clear the conditions, right? And if I'm off base, raise your hand, but I know this problem. So then the twist here is, yeah, your underwriter manager wouldn't, Tammy. And the truth of it is, if you had more than like 10 seconds to think about it, you wouldn't be okay with it either. Nor would I, by the way. The reason why is because what companies don't do at the top level, including your underwriting manager, presumably, is relieve the underwriter of the responsibility for that condition. So, back in 2004, when a company called InterFirst came out and leveraged LP for automated underwriting with called Accept Plus. If you're old like me, you know what that means. No income, no assets. Sometimes you didn't even need an appraisal, even on the purchase. So basically, you can close a file in like 5 or 7 days or something for real. Sell it to Freddie Mac and be done with it. The reason why that was ridiculously successful for people like me that used it, we made a lot of money off that thing, was because the responsibility of that, other than fraud, was removed. We see the same thing with rep and warrant relief through AUS today. The problem with the data, right? So Rachel Bick says if the data source is reliable, there shouldn't be any reason not to clear it. But couldn't the data just be mapped to the system and related conditions be automated from that? So the question I would ask Rachel and others is if you're currently receiving any type of information from an EPC integration into Encompass, is that information considered reliable? If you get fees in from Lodestar or Closing Corp, or if you get appraisal information from Rigora or whatever, from Mercury or whatever they are today, whoever owns Mercury today, or if you get flood in from CoreLogic or credit in from Zactus, if the information is in Encompass, why is it still editable? It's from the source. Why would you not? Same thing can be said for any type of verification service, right? And so what ends up happening is companies, again, everybody on this call is probably in this boat. You bring in this information from the source, and then you let people do what? You go look at the piece of paper, and you're like, and it's on the screen, but it's still a piece of paper, and you're like, oh yeah, that says $1,000. It says $1,000. Okay, it's good. Like, what? It's crazy. But you're doing that because the company requires you to do it because it's your job to verify that PDF that you're going to ship says the same thing on the screen and they're supposed to match. The problem is not the process. The problem is that the company actually doesn't trust the data source and is requiring you to have a job to go verify the data again at the electronic data on the screen against the URLA fields. And this is by far the biggest challenge that we have at Mortgage Workflow Partners. When we go and redo workflows and we actually try to move that needle for companies that want true automation, I sit down with them and my client engagement leaders sit down with our clients and we say, if you truly believe that, I need you to make sure that as that data comes into the file, we lock it down, persona access to fields. And if that loan is approvable through AUS or whatever the guidelines are, that file's cleared, that condition is cleared. And most importantly, that underwriter is not responsible to review that information. And that's usually where the brakes get hit. They're like, what do you mean the underwriter is not responsible to review the information? I said, what do you want them to review? And they're like, the information. I said, but you got it from a trusted source. Do you trust the source? Well, yeah, but. I'm like, no, you can't say but. There's no buts. No buts here. So again, this is a really hard move. It's one of the things that at the ICE show, to kind of wrap back to that, when I run around to the different different vendors, like there's a company there, Continuous, that does HMDA scrubbing. You got Big Point of Sale that's got a 90 whatever percent success rate on document import and scrubbing. You got Ocrolus doing their thing. You got other companies that are doing some really cool stuff with data importing. Zactus does a great job with that stuff, from what I'm told. And so Lisa's like, that's my conversation every day. So what I want you to take from this monologue is if you're fighting against, and maybe that's a strong word, if you're having constant struggles with your internal operations to actually take advantage of what's possible in Encompass, it's because the company executive leadership refuses to relinquish the responsibility of the teams they have to manage the data that they've already paid for to be accurate. And when I sit down with CEOs and I talk about this, I'm the guy in the room saying, you're either lying to me or you're lying to you. Who are we lying to right now? So again, I know it sounds kind of heavy and you didn't ask for this stuff today, but I'm telling you right now, I'm kind of at that stage in life and professionalism that if somebody really wants to change, I'm believing them and I'm going to force the change. And if they're not being sincere, then don't hire me. Like, it's not a big deal. I'll go work somewhere else. So when it relates to what's possible, you know, today, actually, right now, actually, I was on stage a month ago, and I was talking about top 6 things you have to do in 2026 with native Encompass and how you can leverage native Encompass settings to truly automate workflow, right? Just essentials, just Encompass essentials, truly automation. Workflow task was on the list, enhanced conditions was on the list, and workflow rules and all these other things. Encompass Web, you don't need Encompass Web to be truly automated. And Laura Daniels was up there, and Rhoda McCrimmon and Chris Sutherland were up there, and we had a great time. It was a really great time, and I hope everybody that saw that, there's about 600 something folks there, I hope you pass it around to everybody else, because the idea that anybody, you're here, so you can learn, anybody can take this information and make meaningful change in their company is special. Like, not every LOS lets you do this, gang. And so I know over the years, you know, Encompass has caught some rightfully earned crap on performance issues and structure issues and things like that. I get it. But it's 2026, and the roadmap for 26.2, 26.3, 27.1, you're now the problem. What are you going to do with that? I don't know if that's motivating or if I'm touching the nerve, but that's the reality. Like, you're now the problem. So that's why I built the Mastering Encompass course. That's why I built WorkflowCoach. That's why I talk about workflow governance, because it's no longer a technology problem. It's a workflow problem. Saw it coming. Saw it coming 5 years ago. Here we are. All right, who's got more questions? You guys have been listening to me talk long enough. I need to take a drink of coffee. Got like 10 more minutes. I don't want to run you to the end if I can help it. Anybody come across some really cool vendors they want to mention, or anything like that? Anything you think it might be cool to ask a question like, hey, have you heard of so-and-so? Are they good? Are they helpful? Want me to show you how WorkflowCoach works? For those that are here, there's like 47 people here. Do you want me to show you how to do something in Encompass Web? Like, I don't care. I'm here with you, so you tell me. Radio silence. Currently piloting Oculus. My thoughts on them, I partner with them. There's 2 companies out there right now that I truly appreciate their work. ICE for DDA and Oculus for what they're doing. And I'll tell you why. Because they're the only 2 that I'm aware of, and if there are others, please educate me, that actually let you use the native Encompass condition set for the output. I've been saying this for years, that companies who develop technologies to do automated underwriting and they make you use their condition set is completely counterintuitive to leveraging the Encompass platform. It makes 0 sense, none. And so that's the reason why we partner with them. Plus their team's super awesome, very responsive. But you got to test, right? You got to do your testing and make sure it's a good fit. Snippet of WorkflowCoach. Okay, Rachel, I built WorkflowCoach. We're working with Freddie DDA. We're onboarding lender toolkit. Listen, I've known Brent for a long time. Fantastic company, like, truthfully. Doing some really cool stuff. I like how Brett and his team have really started talking about workflow automation. I think their Prism product is totally fine. I think it does things that you cannot do natively. I just think that to jump from doing nothing to go paying a third party, I think what you should do is really completely exploit what you're already paying for. And the one thing about any technology, as you've heard me say incessantly, is you got to know your own workflow first. And so if you're going to use any of these things, whether it's Oculus or Lender Toolkit or whoever else, please document your workflow before you decide to make that decision. Verify why you need a piece of technology to do something that you don't already own. And then most importantly, make sure that part of your engagement is documenting your workflow after they implement, but before you start. I've seen this happen way too many times where somebody realizes, I'll put it this way, I'm in a huge project right now, And we have a very basic problem that creates an enormous issue. And we should have known about it up front. And had we actually documented the workflow after implementation before we started, we would have discovered this problem. We might not even be doing the project right now. And that's like I don't know, it's got to be at least a $3 million project. It's crazy. Condo Tech, don't know anything about. Kenneth, somebody help Kenneth. Continuous for home to scrub. Amy, you got to let us know how that goes. Gateless Friday Harbor. You got to you got to demo Aqualus in there. Gateless and Friday Harbor don't use your Encompass condition set. This is what I'm talking about. They're fine technologies. I'm sure they work fine. But if I can't use my native condition, I got a huge problem with that as an admin and as a business owner. So I don't know. That's just me. Everybody's got their own opinion. So, but these are the kinds of things, guys, talk about this in the community. Like say, hey, who's doing what with who? Like, I think that's awesome. Everybody should be able to stand on their own. It shouldn't be like a try it in secret and don't talk about it. Like it should be very open, but you got to know your workflow first. So here, a couple of people asked about WorkflowCoach. So I got no problem plugging this thing. So here's the deal. And by the way, Patty Slack, if you know Patty Slack from the community, she's phenomenal on this thing. And so the big deal is on the dashboard, it tells you like how many projects you got going on, departments you've documented plus workflows. This is, for me, this is a big deal. If you're working with a third party, by the way, as an engagement support team, if they're not giving you this visibility on demand, you should challenge them. Like I can go back and look to see what did Larry work on, and you know, that kind of a thing, or what did this Larry work on? This is really important. But when we get into your workflows, what was super helpful for me to understand, like if I needed to go in there and document sales, you can go through and document step by step, and it's very easy. You can follow through, pick your stuff, pick the companies you work with. These are all great companies. You can add images for screenshots. You can go through and add in also help job links if you want to use it as a training aid. If you don't like that step there, move it to there. So it's just a very easy UI to work with. And then most importantly, for workflow governance, you have the ability to document current workflow and then also work on proposed changes. So you can sandbox it until you're ready to promote. And then while you're working on this, you can identify the things that you want to change, whether that's Encompass or other places. And then when you're ready, go ahead and promote it. That gets promoted, and then you know, all your version controls are down here. So the tool is in beta right now, Craig. So if you want to sign up, it is in beta. I can tell you for the folks that are in beta, you'll get a significant discount when we do go live with commercial licensing, which will probably be sometime by June or July. But the idea is, yeah, you go through here, and then the other part that I'm thoroughly happy about is the project part. So we do this project part where you can document what's happening in your project to affect your workflow change, and then ultimately identify your work streams and your risks and your to-dos. And then this little sucker, again, super happy with. Every Monday, this goes out automatically to anybody you want, and it just outlines what's going on with the project. So from a project manager perspective, it's very helpful. If not a godsend to some that always need to find out what's going on with the project, and then it outlines risks and issues and things like that. But yeah, if you want a true demo, like, you know, reach out, be glad to give it to you. If you want to ask for feedback, there's a ton of people on the call who can give you direct feedback. We include this in all of our engagements, and it's also part of the admin coaching certification. You get this too. So I don't know who asked for work. Is there something else? I didn't know that project update could go out. Yeah. It's so what you do is go into the projects up in here, and then go to more, and then email recipients. and just add the email recipients. And then you also get to view what went out. So that goes out, and this becomes a publicly shareable randomized value. So you can give it to anybody. They won't be able to get into your workflow coach. They'll just be able to see this. So it's secure from that perspective, Amy. I don't know. We're doing cool stuff. All because I want to make sure that we're making a difference here for folks. And so other questions, last questions. Thank you, Amy. I think it's cool too. Other questions on Encompass AMA, anything coming up, releases, how to-dos? Hopefully everybody got their taxes done by tomorrow. I'm still doing mine. I'll get them done by tomorrow. Who is using shared lock in desktop? How's it going? Has anybody actually implemented a 26.1 shared lock? As a reminder, shared lock simply means that a human can be in the file and an API can be in the file. There is a list of known issues. So I think, Samantha, there are a ton of people who are like, I'll wait for the next bus. But yeah, I don't know. Looks like nobody's answering you. These known issues are pretty deep. I mean, so Ken says, do I think the SDK deadline will get pushed? No, Ken, no, it will not. Thanks, actually, you triggered me on two things. So thanks, Ken. SDK, software development kit, it absolutely not. Matter of fact, they wanted it to not be pushed from last year, but it is what it is. SDK is an enormous security risk, number one. Number two, it allows bad actors in your Encompass. Number three, it only works on desktop, right? And so if you haven't already, I highly encourage you to get your SDK usage report from your ICE Mortgage Technology account representative person. They can get that to you to see where you stand on SDK usage. A lot of people don't realize that some of their services are still SDK. So it's a good idea to get that. But after the end of this year, if you're allowed to execute the provisional SDK waiver, which is only going to be for a certain period of time, you still need to give a use case as to why you need that. Now, for companies that develop plugins on the SDK framework, they just got last month the ability to develop the plugins 2.0, which will allow for a lot of these SDK plugins to finally migrate to API. So everyone who has that is working in a fever pitch to get things delivered. Just please make sure you get the SDK usage report, work with your internal or external team members on the transition plan for that SDK. And our rule of thumb, like we're doing something with mortgage automation technologies, like, amber flag, red flag kind of stuff here, is if it comes to be by the end of June, there needs to be an SDK transitional plan in writing between you and these internal external partners. And then by September, if you still have SDK traffic going on, it's a red flag, honestly, and you need to be aware of what is the plan here. That's number one. Number two, the other thing I want to bring up here, again, Ken, thanks for triggering my brain, is a reminder, and I said this probably 2 weeks ago, as you're working with API-based solutions, you need to make sure that anytime you are using technology that you do not own, A, you should never be giving out your lender API keys. B, check with ICE Mortgage Technology on the partner portal to make sure the company is actually a partner. I had a thing with a company with 2 different TPO clients. It was an AI company, and come to find out that they are not a partner. Matter of fact, their application to be a partner wasn't even submitted. I still don't even know if it's submitted right now. And meanwhile, the clients are being told, oh yeah, any day now. Dude. Like, no. So perform due diligence, make sure you understand what's going on. We caught a ton of conversation over the last 4 weeks from banks who had middleware API vendors selling them, like on contract, API integrations between Encompass and their core. These folks are not partners of ICE Mortgage Technology. Huge problem. If you try to get around that, you're going to be found out and you're going to have to make a change. Otherwise, you're going to get some strong language from attorneys. So don't do that. Do it the right way. Work with partners. Get service that you can actually support and stay in business. How's that, Ken? Did I get it for you? Bet you didn't know you were going to get that answer. But thanks for asking. Cool. All right. And stay out of orange jumpsuits. Yes, Denise. No orange jumpsuits for you. Orange is not the new black. I never watched that show. I hear it's good though. All right, gang. I will, unless there's something else, I got 3 more minutes, but if you got to go, go. I appreciate you coming to these. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. If there's anything I can ever do to help, of course, just ask. Bye for now. See you guys.